Before 2025, we will have a solution for the smog problem. We will have much cheaper cars, electric cars. And nobody, 99% of the people living in Tehran today are not expecting this. So you're a privileged group of pioneers that know this is going to happen. Hey, my name is Ehssan Dariani. I was born in Tehran in 1980, and my family left Iran during the Iran-Iraq war. You all remember. I can remember that we had bombing nights, and we had to go to the bomb shelter, but we had no bomb shelter, so we just went downstairs and were on floor ground in a four-floor building. So the probability was best to survive in the case of the destruction of the house. So we ended up as a refugee in Germany, and I was in all these kind of camps that you can see today, one of those dirty kids, probably, that you can see today. And I managed to do my Abitur in Germany, and then I started to study physics and mathematics in Göttingen. I canceled, went to St Gallen, and graduated in economics. Right in 2005, and right after 2004 to 2005. Right afterwards, I started studiVZ, that became the biggest social net in Europe before Facebook came up. We had also an offer from Facebook to sell it to them. It was an equity deal. In that case, if we had decided for that case or that deal, I would be a multi-billionaire. So we missed that now, but that's fine as well. So let me tell you something about the human brain and exponential speed. I'm very optimistic about the future of the Middle East, Africa, and the entire world. I believe that in the next 20 to less than 30 years, everything will be more or less all fine, and we will have democratic, secular, and prospering states in the Middle East and Africa. That sounds insane and crazy, and most of you will, after this presentation, think that I'm either crazy or interesting, perhaps both. If I should convince 5% of you, I would be happy, because I believe in grassroots movements and exponential growth. And these 5% or 2 of you would convince 2 other people, and 2 other people, and 2 other people, and so far and so far. Next, please. There's a legend about chess. I love playing chess, and and there's this legend that a famous chess player 2,000 years ago played chess with a king, and he was very successful, and the king said, okay, if you win against me, you have a free wish. And the wish of this chess player was to have grains of rice or wheat or whatever. And he wanted to have 1 rice grain on the first field. I mean, chessboard has 8 times 8 fields, 64 fields. So 1 grain on the first field. Then double the grain the next day, 2 grains on the second field, and then 4 grains, 8 grains, etc. The king was totally surprised, because this was a very, very humble wish. But what he didn't know that you need, if the king wanted to fulfill this wish, it would need more rice grains that is needed. That would be enough. He would have enough rice grains to cover the entire Earth, the entire planet, with a layer of rice of the thickness of 10 centimeters. So this is the surprising effect of exponential developments. Next, please. And we see in nature, I'm also a natural scientist in my soul, though I don't believe it's in the traditional soul, but as a snippet of software. We see exponential speed everywhere. Interest rates in biology. Rumors spread at an exponential speed. Knowledge, IT, and but our brains. Next, please. Fool us, because we think in the linear terms. That's why we are totally surprised about the refugee crisis, or totally surprised by revolutions, the fall of the Berlin Wall, or the Arab Spring. Surprise, yeah. For a long time, obviously nothing happens, but then suddenly, boom, you have a surprise. Next, please. This is the reality of the proceeding processes that we have in reality, that usually most people don't see and don't measure. This is going to be changed by big data and other things. That's why I'm so optimistic about the Middle East, and it will be all fine, not in 500 years, but in 20 years. Next, please. The drivers of change are mainly also the technological evolution. You know, Moore's law that says that the capacity or power of computer chips and memory power doubles every 18 months. So we are back to the chessboard, you remember? And this will lead to a lot of very surprising effects. By the way, economic growth and productivity, the last bullet point, is driven by technological, by technology mainly. You know how much more productive you are through your smartphone. I don't need to mention that. Next, please. Yes, and technology is available to the poorest people of the world very soon. Smartphones are the key to the future. Smartphones that bring all brains, also the brains of the poorest people, online and give the brains a chance to upgrade. So technology at the beginning is very expensive and unreliable, and short afterwards, it's very cheap and reliable. That's a good message, message, because I also believe that the medical evolution, medical progress will make us much more healthier, and much older in the future. The life expectations are gonna rise tremendously for everybody, also the poor people. Next, please. Smartphones, as mentioned, we have an illiteracy rate of 50-60% in Egypt, as far as I know, and other parts of the Middle East, or MENA, and this will change also very fast. All these things, this boost in societal evolution will lead to secularization and to phenomena of societies that we know from Germany or the Western world. But I don't like the term Westernization, because people are proud about their own culture and identity, and just because they want to have a free life, have a secular life, they are not imitating a different person or another culture, a different culture, the Western culture, but they are living just a natural life of free and enlightened people. Thank you. Next, please. So now the really crazy part begins. And I go through this crazy part, then I close the crazy part, and we'll go back to the less crazy part. Next, please. So there are some speculations of scientists, very renowned, smart scientists that I admire too, about something that is called the technological singularity. We believe that until 2035 or 2040, artificial intelligence will overtake human intelligence. And very short time afterwards, the purchasing power of $1,000 or €1,000 will buy you intelligence, smart, more powerful than the entire intelligence of the humankind. And a couple of years later, you get €1,000 for €1,000 more intelligence. This is a very simple description of these theories. Than 10 times of the humankind. And what happens next, we don't know. Afterwards, this is called the singularity, because what comes afterwards, we cannot know now. This is a very famous picture that went viral. You have seen it, perhaps. 20 years later, all those devices fit in your pocket while you run on a treadmill. Right? You remember? Radio, CD player, and so far and so forth. But what is in the center of this picture might disappear too in 20 or 30 years. Next, please. So, okay, what's more mind-blowing, in 30 years, this guy himself will disappear as a snippet of software. This is how I describe soul. So thinking of manned space missions with actual human bodies is as foolish as like having 1985, when people imagined how future typewriters and disc records would look like. This is what I believe in. This will happen this century. Next, please. So in future, manned space flights won't need women or men and bodies, yet in this century. This is a picture, by the way, from one of my favorite movies, Interstellar. What you see in the background is a black hole surrounded by a planet. Next, please. when people look at the stars, they often see, oh, we are so small, we have no relevance, the universe is so big. No, I don't agree, because it's not about the size, it's about the complexity. So you and me are not too small, we matter on Earth, and I also believe that we matter, the mankind matters in our galaxy. It's, how do I come up with this? Because if this kind of artificial intelligence that we are going to develop, or it develops itself, can result in the colonization of our galaxy. And it takes less than, if you have a spaceship that goes this kind of intelligence life back to the next planet, and it doubles itself in 500 years, and then you have 4 spaceships going and colonizing other planets, and so far and so forth. It takes less than 4 million years to colonize the entire galaxy with 100 billion stars we are living in. And 4 million years is nothing in geological terms or cosmological terms. So we matter. Not size matters, but we matter. Complexity and intelligence matters. So otherwise, dinosaurs would still dominate the planet. What is the nature of time? I mean, the future is already here, but it's not everywhere yet. So the universe is the same for 13 or 14 billion years. But what is changing is the structures. So new complexity emerges from the matter that we have already for billions of years, right? So, and next, please. So, what happened here? Time. Pioneering cells start the change and best practice at one point. They come up with ideas, inventions, social behaviors, and this kind of practice spreads exponentially. So this is the company I'm involved in as a founding investor, and on the left we have Gary, on the right Lamine. The left guy is Jewish, the right guy is Arab, from Algeria, and I'm from Tehran, and we have a good time. And I believe this will be, and I'm totally convinced that this is now perhaps the exception in the Middle East, but it will be the normal case in 20 years. Imagine what was going on in Europe in 1943. Could you imagine that 20 years later, we had the Europe that we had in the 60s? No. And this is happening much faster now. Next, please. So back to the present. So I close the most crazy part now and get back to the less crazy part. So you might say, hey, the world is not less crazy. Isn't the present reality not broke and crazy? Part. Depends. Next, please. We have a bias through news and our perception. So we had this horrible terror attacks in Paris. But what we don't read in the news is that 99.9999% of Western towns and cities and villages have not noticed any terror attacks in the last decades, right? So when we look at the facts, we see the violence is decreasing globally, massively. But also the values of societies are changing. You know, when I was a little kid in Iran, it was normal that the teachers hit you with a stick, and this is now totally, disgusting. Nobody does it anymore. So the violence is losing its power or its value tremendously inside the societies as well as in the international affairs and context. So this is a really good news. So we should look at this. And remember that the probability to be shot or killed in a terror attack for a Western European person is less probable perhaps than being killed by a meteorite that hits you. Next, please. What is happening in the Middle East? We have rivalries between Sunnis, Shia, and Israelis and other forces. And in a secular society, there will be no fight between Sunni and Shia groups. I believe the political power of religion will diminish in the next 20 years. That's what has happened in Europe as well after the Second World War. It's just 2 generations away. So when you talk to very old people, they tell you in the rural areas of Germany that it was normal that not to marry between Protestant and Catholic couples. But I think Europe learned after the Second World War was that this rivalry between France, Germany, and UK leads to a lose-lose situation. Nobody could win with military means, right? So everybody realized this, after so many millions that were killed in so many wars. And then they shifted from this unfriendly rivalry to a cooperative rivalry. Just imagine, look at the great relationship between France and Germany. So this is going to happen in Saudi Arabia, between Saudi Arabia, Iran, Israel, Egypt, and all the other powers. And then we will have a win-win situation for all parts. The question is if we have reached the tipping point or not. I say, yeah, it depends. On the state level, we have not reached the tipping point of this noticing or realizing these mechanisms. But I think on the social level, I'm talking about Iran, the majority of the people are mature enough for a democratic secular state. But, state institutions, they need much more time. So we need just to be, some Geduld, patient, thank you. Patience, and everything's going to be all right. So, and next, please. Last week I was from the BMW Stiftung, the first Berlin Global Forum, and on one, there was this sign that people had developed in their sessions, and it says, "Take care of the losers." This is a very important point. You have to take care of the losers to prevent them become suicide bombers and other kind of, people that just destroy. You have also to take care of the loser states, by embracing them, not by isolating them. When you isolate someone, he becomes a weirdo. He's hurt, and then he does everything just to show it to you. Yeah. But if you embrace him, you build a relationship. If he has some, you trade with him. You gain some interest that you have in common. You have personal relationships, and people that know each other, love each other, they don't kill each other blindly, at least not. So let's embrace the weirdos. It's hard to implement this in practical life. So on my personal level, I try to spend some of my time with special people, but it's worth it because they have a very special perspective on the world, and they're very often very smart and see solutions that you don't come up with. Next, please. There are a lot of opportunities in the neighborhood. So I'm from the tech sphere. So, this is the global startup ecosystem index. Number 1 is Silicon Valley by far, and then we have Tel Aviv. I think it would be worse to hang out in Tel Aviv, bring the young startup and tech people from Beirut to Tehran, from Cairo, Baghdad, and let them do what I am doing currently with my co-founders or with the founders of Cookies. So it's worth it, to end this lose-lose situation and all this kind of Cold War proxy games that could not prevent by, for example, Iran growing its influence. Total bullshit. It causes pain on all sides without benefiting anybody. Next, please. My vision and prediction: before 2045, we will have a stable, democratic, secular Middle East and Africa and world. And before 2025, we will have a solution for the smog problem and the traffic casualties caused by petrol cars. So, for example, when we talk about Iran, we have 18,000, almost 20,000 people that are killed every year in traffic casualties, and thousands of people dying, because of the very smoggy and dirty air. This will end. I have a Tesla now. It's very expensive, not so reliable. But in 5 to 10 years, you will have much cheaper cars, electric cars, that drive autonomously, that see pedestrians, bikers, and will prevent majority of casualties. And of course, the smog problem. And 99% of the people living in Tehran today are not expecting this. So you're a privileged group of pioneers that know this is going to happen in less than 10 years. And everybody will be totally surprised. Oh, it went so fast, I didn't see it coming. Next, please. So I believe that when a lot of talent in our society is invested in doing business, becoming richer, and so forth. So when more talented people would invest some of their time and energy in solving global problems, we would be much further. By solving problems, I don't mean these kind of superficial PR charity events. I don't mean that. I mean by thinking and trying to find innovative solutions. For For example, when we talk about the refugee crisis, we can learn also from a less developed country like Iran. So Iran could absorb 3 or 4 million Afghan refugees. So how did they do it? And Iran is much less wealthy than Germany. I mean, more than 80% of the Afghan refugees are integrated as a labor force. I think a lot of them, for example, middle class, in multi-family apartments in middle class areas have a doorman. You don't have doorman in Germany. It's a luxury thing. So if we would allow refugees, at least for the beginning, when they are not yet fluent in German and they have not yet their papers set, to work as a doorman in Mehrfamilienhäuser, in multi-family apartment buildings, I think this would be a great contribution and win-win situation for all sides, and it's very pragmatic. When it comes to conflict, humans have also a very bad disadvantage. They don't talk to each other anymore, and this is really bad. So from your personal perspective or experience, when there is conflict, talk to each other. Get the other person to the table, drink tea, black tea, shisha, and vodka, whatever you like, or both, and talk to each other. That helps. Spend time with each other. Embrace the culture of criticism. Criticism makes you grow. I hate compliments, Compliments are bullshit. They don't let you grow. I love criticism. Be the leader you want to see in the world, actively. Don't complain about the dumb, illiterate, whatever people in your society. Just get on their nerves. Try it on Facebook. Start it with Facebook. Facebook discussions are perfect. I love it. I mean, we have a lot of insults going on. The people are emotional, but at the same time, they build relationships. They see pictures of each other, and they exchange arguments, and this builds empathy. So in the long term, this helps, despite all the insults that you have at the same time. So, and grassroots movements rock, because, what I told you, exponential pace. If you convince 2 people, it's a great idea. These 2 people go and convince 2 other people, and this goes on, and 10 years later, the majority of the society thinks this is the most natural and best idea ever, and they live up to it. And sometimes it's worse to be a bit crazy and an artist. And last point, start businesses with Arabs, Iranians, Jews, atheists, and Germans. And next, please. Doubt and discussion are essential for progress. Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to have a discussion with you. Thank you.